Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the Steampunk Desperado channel. And again, Happy New Year 2025 for my second show. My topic is The Book of Elsewhere by Keanu Reeves and China Mieville. And this came out in 2024. So it's one of those few exceptions of a book from this recent year that I actually read. I meant to do this as a 5-minute review, but it's just too much to cover in that little time. What I didn't realize at the time when I saw this pop up on my search was that the Book of Elsewhere, like so many other projects these days, is actually an adaptation of a comic book. It was a series called BRZRKR, and I do remember hearing in the early 2020s that Keanu Reeves was crowdfunding a comic. And being a celebrity with a cult following, of course, it did fantastic. He raised $1.4 million on Kickstarter. Not many people can do that, and it probably happened within a few days. The name Berserker, as you're probably familiar, comes from the ancient Norse tradition of warriors fighting in a blood frenzy. The word most likely comes from a Norse for bearskin shirt, though there were also berserkers who wore wolf skins and others with wild boars as their totem animal. So they'd have like a boar's head as part of their outfit. Now, for you Demon Slayer fans out there, think of Inosuke. Where's the pig head? And he's one of my favorite characters. The berserker concept has fascinated writers for many years, and the unfortunate result is that there are several properties out there that already have this name. There's a space opera series by Fred Saberhagen where the berserkers are robots bound on destroying humanity. There's a 2009 comic series from Top Cow Productions, and in both of those, the name is spelled with an S, BRZRKR. Marvel has an X-Men character who spells it with a Z, BRZRKR. Now this one, Keanu had to come up with something different, so he thought, well, I'll take out the vowels. So this one is spelled BRZRKR, Berserker. The story follows an immortal warrior whom they call B for Berserker. He's nearly invulnerable to injury, and he heals in minutes from grievous harms that would kill any of us normal people. And he is immortal in the sense that he goes on forever, but he can be killed. What happens is that his body, his corpse, the remnants of his body, come back together, and they form a egg-shaped chrysalis from which he is reborn as a full adult with all of his memories. So in that sense, he's immortal. And you can't kill him by atomizing his body. In this case, he'll like reappear somewhere else, maybe hundreds of miles away, maybe thousands on another continent. There's no real logic to it because it's magic. I never read the comic version, unfortunately, because after I heard about it, it takes a while for it to happen, and I kind of forgot. And that means I can't compare the two. I can't say how good of an adaptation this was, but from the summaries I've read online, it sounds like it's pretty darn close. It sounds like they did a decent job. But of course, they've added to the lore. For example, B has a name now. It is Unite. And I'm not sure what that means, but I'm thinking, uno in Spanish is one, and Neo, Keanu's character from The Matrix, is an anagram for the one. So maybe that's why. I don't know. Some of the themes in this story are kind of well worn, including the idea of an immortal who is tired of life and wants to die. Although B keeps saying, well, I don't want to die right now, I just want to become mortal. And for somebody who's lived for 80,000 years, that may be like a distinction without a difference. One of the fresher aspects of this concept is that B is working for the US government. And his near invincibility means he can do all sorts of jobs that nobody else can. Like he can, jump out of a helicopter and survive. I mean, he can, knife a terrorist leader while his minions are shooting him, and he can just walk through all these bullets with the holes healing up. And he's not like a caveman, even though he's that old. Even though he was born at a time when people barely had fire. No, he is very fluent in all modern languages. He can dress and act like a normal modern person. He even knows something about technology. So he's no caveman. Now, despite the byline, it has both Keanu Reeves and China Mieville on it. I kind of figured it wasn't going to be the normal kind of collaboration where two people work on the same thing together. No, it was a serial collaboration. That is, Keanu wrote the original story for the comic, had the original concept, and Mieville novelized it. Now, according to Wikipedia, Keanu specifically asked for Mieville because he is like his favorite sci-fi writer, and he said, "Gee, I hope he does it." And of course he did. And they kept it top secret until it was actually ready to publish. And now, one of the things I would have been concerned about is Mieville is kind of a weird writer. He has a lot of strange aspects. He's very political, very left leaning, and he has weird stuff in his books like walking, talking insects and interspecies sex. I know because I've read several. To his credit, though, he hasn't really done that with this. It was pretty faithful as far as I can tell. He doesn't have any, sex with bugs. He did some interesting things with the POV and so on with the writing. And as a matter of fact, he had most of it in third person, but there were other characters that had known B throughout his long life that will speak in first person for their chapter, and there are places in B's backstory. I think those are mostly battle scenes, if I remember correctly, where it's second person, like you kill them with a knife, which is kind of crazy. Anyway, despite that, it still works. You can still follow what's going on. Now, a comic book, if it's good, is all about action. But novels can explore the backstory. They can go a little bit more into the philosophy of the character and what makes him tick. And that's what's really interesting here. We learn how Unute was first created when a Cro-Magnon woman, way back when, performed magical rites and asked the gods to let her give birth to a champion for her tribe because they were, getting killed by other tribes and stuff. So this involves being impregnated by blue lightning. Not sure how that worked. He didn't really go into it, thankfully. But anyway, it's magic. Just take it for granted that it worked. The young Unute, after he's born, he matures very quickly. He's walking within days. Within a couple of years, he is ready to kill for his tribe. The problem is he gets into such a frenzy that he often kills his sparring partners. And if you're on his raiding party, you have to stand back because he might get you by accident. He is unkillable, basically, as they soon find out. He outlives his family, he outlives his tribe, and he ends up walking the earth like Kwai Chang. And because he lives through several ice ages, he can cross these land bridges to where there aren't even any people yet, like the Americas. But as he goes on, his legend grows, and pretty soon people are worshiping him as a god. And there are fakers, there are charlatans who pretend to be him that he encounters him, and he's thinking, "Gee, maybe I've encountered somebody else that's like me. Maybe this is like my brother also born by the lightning." But it turns out he's always disappointed. And there's also the idea that people want his secrets, that certain people realize that he's not a god, but he is a being with supernatural powers, and they capture him and torture him for his secrets. And in one case, this sorcerer gets him, and she keeps killing him over and over and over again because she's trying to figure out what makes him tick. She also wants to eliminate him from the world. He's a threat. He can feel pain, so he can suffer, and he does have agency. And it's not just he can kill everything and everybody, even though he is pretty overpowered by the standards of a hero. Of course, he also has a lot of angst, and it's partially because everybody he loves or ever has loved has died, and he just keeps living on. There's also the fact that he can't father a child in the normal way. I mean, well, he can, and the woman will get pregnant, but the baby is always stillborn. So this gives rise to the idea that he is a personification of death, and that's why he can't bring more life into the world. Now, in the modern day sequences, there is a top secret government department. The whole department is structured around him for two reasons. One is to use him as an operative, like he can go in and kill the bad guys when they're trying to kill him and succeed where nobody else could. And the other side, they're studying him, trying to figure out how he is this way. Can we replicate this? Can we make a super soldier that could also not be killed? We have a whole platoon of them, for example. And he doesn't really seem to care about that. It doesn't really bother him. He's so old, it's not a big concern of his, although he does want to be on the side of good. And he does really regret when he accidentally kills some of his friends and colleagues, which does happen. Now, there's another notion I alluded to earlier that keeps coming back and back, is that he wants to look for somebody else that's like him. Is there anybody else who is immortal like me? And as a bit of a spoiler, yes, he does find somebody, but it's not what you'd expect. It's not even human. And as a clue, look at the cover of the novelization that I put on my screen. If you can figure out that drawing, it's a rather strange drawing, you've got an idea of what it might be. Now, the opening scene is the only one in the audiobook that's voiced by Keanu himself. And it's good, it's interesting, it's actiony, but if you don't know the premise of the series, it's a little confusing. But even though I was a little frustrated at first, I quickly got hooked and I listened to the whole thing in 2 days. Now, the whole time I was listening to it, I was thinking, wow, this would make a great movie. This would make a great series. This would make a great anime. Well, of course, that's what they're planning, right? And that's what turned out to be true. Netflix is working on a live action series with Keanu as the director. So even though Netflix tends to screw things up, I'm hoping that Keanu's presence will make them back off a bit. It's also slated to be an anime by a Japanese firm called Production IG, with Keanu Reeves doing the voice acting for the role of B. Now, of course, Mrs. Desperado and I will probably listen to the Japanese version if there is one. So, sorry, Keanu. Although, I guess I'd have to listen to at least one episode with Keanu in there. This is not the most original concept ever, as I said before, but I think Keanu put a fresh spin on it. So now I'm going to have to get the comic and see what that's like. And it's pretty amazing in this day and age when almost everything that comes out is a sequel, a prequel, a reboot, or a reimagining of some other successful book or comic book or movie. And sometimes the reimagining is just to change everything around for modern audiences, which also, of course, makes it worse. Besides this, I think Mieville did a really good job adapting this. I think it was a little less weird than his normal stuff. It was pretty true to the spirit of something that Keanu Reeves would do, kind of very John Wickish. And he didn't really impose his politics on there. You could see a little bit of it in the background if you knew what he's like. But in general, I really appreciated that. And so I'd say, good job, China. You've done a great adaptation, well worthy of Keanu's belief in you. This has been my review of The Book of Elsewhere by Keanu Reeves and China Mieville. Please let me know what you think about it in the comments. Please like and subscribe. Please also check out my works on Amazon. Links are in the description. For now, this is Steampunk Desperado saying adios amigos from the Steampunk Desperado channel, where the past meets the future and the present is extraordinary.